To help us educate ourselves better, we have Mr. Mehraboon Irani, a stock market expert, to talk on building a successful financial model. Mr. Irani is a financial expert who is invited at multiple national and international TV shows.
Mehraboon, who knows fundamentals of investing, what is happening in the market from the business perspective, from the investor's perspective. And great to have you here on the show. And thanks so much to give your information on how we should be starting when we start new and how should we be investing to see that our money works for us.
Thanks, Dr. Himanshu, for the kind words. Thanks, Dr. Rohan. First of all, let me be grateful to Dr. Pooja Mehta for inviting me to address you all on investments and financial planning for young professionals like you. But at the beginning, let me state that I would have called up Dr. Pooja at least half a dozen times to understand as to what type of audience is going to be there. So she went on stating one thing, that they are all professional, they are all young ophthalmologists, they have a career ahead of them. Restrict yourself to make them understand what finance and what investment is all about. So I would just like to start with one thing, that financial planning for young ophthalmologists, a great subject, appreciated. But less than 10-15 years ago, what was financial planning? It was only meant for people who were on the brink of retirement, who had made money for themselves, and advisors would come and say, "Abhi aap paisa idhar dalo, retirement acha hoga." As far as youngsters goes, they were a completely ignored breed, because at that point of time, when they are young, they don't have the financial muscle. So why shouldn't advisor go to them? But as things have evolved, as the level of education also has improved in the country, people realize that these are the youngsters who really need the financial advice. These are the youngsters who have the potential to grow well, not only for themselves, but also for the next generation, while continuing to serve the interest of the country. What are the advantages of financial planning? The simple advantage of financial planning is that once you start doing financial planning, you feel somewhere mentally secure. I would like to elaborate on one thing, that investment basically is a psychological process also, let's not forget. I know a lot of successful investors who believe more in psychology than in anything else. If you have invested well, if you have understood financial planning well, I promise you that half your work is done. You feel more secure. You will have ups and downs in your career. You will want to start your own clinic one fine day. And somewhere you will think, do I have enough money for doing all this? When your money is growing on the side, the confidence is that much higher. What is the starting point? Let me state one thing, that it is a disciplined approach, regular investments in a portfolio of diverse instruments. If I sounded a little bit complicated, because I have been clearly told that this is for people who are beginning their career, and therefore as of now, they may not be understanding too much of finance. I'll make it very simple. The two basic ingredients of investing is spending less than what you earn as a beginner. Now that you are starting your career, I'm addressing this specifically for the young ophthalmologists who are tuned to this particular segment. Spending less than what you earn means that you should have a decent cash flow. While you are concentrating on increasing your income on one side, don't allow your expenses to grow beyond a point. And point number two is start as early as you can in life. Nobody told me this 30 years ago. I will at least try to do something by passing this on to you by some real life examples. Now, let me squeeze in my personal experience and allow me to state that whatever I am today has been thanks to some financial planning I did completely on my own, and it is my personal experience. As a young journalist, which I was, I had spent nearly 16 years after working in a couple of organizations. I had spent nearly 16 years, was married for 9 years. And I realized that as a journalist of the print media, today's journalism is much more pampered than what it was. As a journalist of the print media, the salary was very meager. Suddenly, life changed for me when an investment banking house approached me and I picked up a job, and my salary grew 10 times in a period of just 2 years. I had a wife who virtually kept me in check, telling me, don't be extravagant. Whatever extra earnings you have got thanks to this change of profession from a journalist to an investment banking house, learn to invest your money. And that investment which I did has been a great compounder over the last 17, 18 years and has allowed me to be what I am. Now, why I'm stating all this to you? Because I just mentioned, number one, spend less, try to earn more. Your spending should not be more than what you are earning. I definitely fulfilled that particular goal or that particular target, because if I had learned to be extravagant, that, okay, pagar bad gaya, let me do this, let me do that, I would not have been able to save and not been able to invest. As youngsters, you should understand the first thing, that spend less than what you earn and learn to invest at a very early age. In my case, it was not very early. Let me state it. I was 16 years into my profession, but better late than never. Let me give you all a very simple example. At the age of 25, you invest 20,000 rupees every month and assume that you earn only 7% return per annum. At the age of 65, having started at 25 with just 20,000 rupees a month, you are worth over 5.8 crore of rupees at the age of 6. Now you decide, no, I will get married first, I'll enjoy my life, I will think of what I am doing, I will go in for further studies, and you forget to invest. And you start investing at the age of 30, at the age of 35 instead of 25. The same 20,000 rupees. That will give you at the age of 65 less than 2.6 crore of rupees. So therefore, you should understand the power of investing early. It's my sincere advice to youngsters who are half my age. Learn to invest at an early age and spend less than what you earn. The next important point after this, the third important point is diversify your portfolio. What does it mean? It means that you should have some money in your bank account, which can be used for emergency purpose. God forbid, you lose your job. God forbid, you have a small calamity in the house. So you will definitely need some money. So learn to put some money in the bank, which is, I would call it as an emergency fund. Point number two, the other three important asset classes in a country like India, I would say is gold, bonds, and equity. Let me cover bonds. Bonds being simple, debentures, fixed deposit, which a lot of people have fancy for because they're ignorant of something called a compounder called equity. Bonds in India at this moment, with interest rates having come down, while they offer you regular returns, those returns, allow me to state, is much lower than the inflation. Also, number two, they are taxable. So I don't personally believe that bonds is the right avenue for investment, even for a youngster today. The third important point is a lot of people forget that by putting my money in bonds, while I'm going to get regular interest and I will take care of my own expenses, that money never grows. The second decent investment option would be gold. Now, gold would be, I would use the word, it would be a hedge against insecurity. What is insecurity? I'm referring to something goes topsy-turvy with the economy. All the asset classes come down. The gold will protect your investment. So a small portion of your money, if you keep it in gold, I would say would not be a bad proposal. But the real compounder, and you may call me biased, I am definitely biased, but I know what I'm stating is true, is equities. A large part of your money should be in equities. And as young ophthalmologists, don't have that thing in your mind, no, yaar, I'm from the medical profession. I have to take care of my own profession in future. I have to do this, I have to do that. Equity kaun samjhega, yaar. I don't even understand the importance of the time value or the art of compounding. I don't understand all these things. How will I understand equity? That's a fallacy. That's wrong thinking. The person, Mehraboon Irani, who is talking to you all right now, and like Dr. Himanshu says that I appear on business channels and all, let me state one thing, that at my graduation level, there was a chapter called Issue of Shares and Security. And allow me to state, it went a complete bouncer over my head. And I dreaded the term. It was a little later in my life when I made a second attempt and I started hearing about equities from people. It became a passion for me, made a second attempt, and touch wood, it was a successful attempt. So never ever think that being from a medical profession, I will not be able to understand finance. That is the biggest mental block a lot of people have. If your intent is there, you will do it. Now, suppose you don't have the time to do it, then there are various investment options available to you in equity segment alone. That is one as the good performing mutual funds or the good performing PMS firms also. Discipline is the most important thing as far as equities go. Preferably SIPs, as people call it, strategic investment plans. Every month, learn to put in some money in equities. Now, what happens if I don't have money for a short period of time, or I lost my job while trying to look out for a new job? As and when you get a new job, learn to again come back to the same scheme and go on putting in your money, because at times of stress, the best of investors start chickening out. But an SIP allows you to make your money grow, because allow me to say, only those few who learn to invest in equity when the markets are down are the people who end up doing well over the longer term. In conclusion, I would wish to state a few things that a lot of questions will come later. First is investing early. Second is spending less than what you earn. Third is diversify your portfolio. As you grow, as you start taking interest, as you feel mentally more secure, as you either establish your business well or are growing in your profession in terms of a job which you will be having, a lot of questions will come to your mind, and I promise you that you will start answering it yourself. First is, am I invested according to my personal needs and goals and challenges? You will answer it. What is my true capacity to take risks? Tomorrow, I want to set up my own clinic after working for 5, 7, 8 years. And you feel that you have made your investments, which are growing. So mentally, you're feeling now more comfortable. But what is my true capacity to take risk? Can I afford to start a business? Can I take a lower paying job that I enjoy more, or will it hurt my future financial security? What would happen to my family if something happens to me? Am I saving too much? Am I sitting on too much of a cash? Can I retire early one day and do a little bit of social service? Should I pay off my debt faster or invest more? And the list goes on. And the best part of finances, for all these tricky questions, there is not one right answer. If you wake up tomorrow and try to answer these questions, you will give a different answer to yours. Financial planning at this stage is something that you need to engage with. The earlier you do it, well, you win that much more. During my time, again, I repeat, financial planning was extinct, at least for the young people. It was meant only for people who are on the verge of retiring and who had made money for themselves. But it is no longer extinct. And in the few moments with you where I was given this opportunity, I would try to highlight to you 3 important things. Number 1, invest early. Number 2, when you are young, try to conserve your cash and learn to invest more. And number 3, which nobody will tell you, it's a very simple thing. Don't have a mental block that finance, equity, bonds, all these things are tough subjects for me just because I am from a different field called medicine. The point is, if I could understand it despite having a hatred for shares when I was at my graduation level in com, then I don't think you should feel worried that, oh, I will not understand it. Learn to invest early. There are quite a few investment options, but according to me, the investment avenue, which will be a real great compounder for you over a period of time.
Thank you so much, Uncle. It was an excellent talk. This Sunday of this year has been very well invested for me and surely all those young officers who are watching us. We are so glad to get such pearls of wisdom from our esteemed speakers, luckily at a relatively very early part of our career. I would now request the IRSI Executive Committee to give a vote of thanks to the speakers.
Just before that, Pooja, I just like to thank Mehraboon. He's just sowed a seed. When you guys want to understand a little more, you should call him for a 1-hour understanding about the subject because he's extremely thorough and researched well. Friends, to juniors, I would say you have heard of the 7 wonders of the world, but the 8th wonder of the world is compounded interest. What he said starting at 25, the real wonder of the world is compounded interest, and that is where you need to understand. Very simple, doesn't take too much. If you are making a pay of say 10,000 rupees, I used to make 800 rupees while doing my house post, but had I been putting 50 rupees at that time, no understanding because we are too busy with our residency, with our post-graduation and trying to fulfill our data. Believe me, it's like buying one McDonald's. Put that much money, start putting that much money, put whatever that you have extra instead of just keeping it in the bank, and the amount of compounding it can get you. You don't have to worry about it. You have the mutual fund way, you have the equities. You have simple. Don't even look at too many things. You have a HDFC bank. You ask Mehraboon otherwise. Simple thing. Don't listen to great CNBC talks also if you don't want to. 5 companies every month you put money. Say HDFC Bank or a Reliance or Asian Paint or XYZ. I don't want to name anything, but Mehraboon will be a great person to answer you those questions. Just put that much money every month. Yes, Mehraboon, please.
I think, Doctor, you said it. I don't know, you read my mind or what. I think for my own son, I've been doing an SIP, and that is putting money in the same stock which you mentioned, coincidentally called HDFC. The temptation is very high that, oh, the market is coming down. Should I stop investing? But the answer is no. If you look back at HDFC Bank, what it has done over the last 20-25 years to investors, I think it's a stupid decision not to continue with your investing. How many HDFC banks are there? Among the 2,500 stocks in the market, there are not more than 30 to 40. Allow me to state that. But if a young ophthalmologist in the audience understands that this is a good stock to buy, he can do his SIP himself. He doesn't need to go to a mutual fund also. He can just buy 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 1,000 rupees worth of that stock every month. And as his income grows, he can buy more of it. If he wants to diversify, he can identify a Colgate or an ITC or Hindustan Lever or whatever. The point is, as long as it plays with his mind well, as long as it doesn't amount to a dirty distraction for him in his pursuit for earning an income for himself, I think he's in safe hands. So it's not necessarily mutual fund and PMS were just examples. And thanks for highlighting the fact that there are few decent, solid companies which have been wealth creators and which will continue to create wealth. A young investor who right now feels he doesn't understand much can start with few of these companies, and believe me, his interest in equity will grow, his confidence will grow, and that will help him excel better and better in in the profession which he has taken.
Would you name 5 of them right now? If I have to just give people the names, Britannia or something which is going to go on, Procter and Gamble, 3M, whatever that you would want to say. Give 5 offhand that you can remember.
Five will be tough, right?
I'm just kidding, because I want people to start at young age. We missed out the boat. We didn't understand much. But that money by now, you would have never worried about retirement and what will happen. Enough money would have been made, and that sitting there quietly doing its own work.
Okay, Himanshu, I would rather ask him. He's given such a wonderful talk, and I think it makes so much sense. It was so simple and yet so kind of meaningful. I would ask him that, because 90% of our doctors and people who are listening in probably today will not know much of ABCD of stocks and equities at all. So for those who have no knowledge at all whatsoever, and you did say that you should get into a mutual fund, then could you guide us, or somebody what kind of mutual fund somebody would be best to invest in at this time, like who has no knowledge at all, and till it grows, where should he be starting to invest?
I appreciate that question, and I will just say one simple thing. The amount of information, the quantum of information that is available to the present day youngsters is not 1, not 10, not 20, but more than 100 times what was available to people like us maybe 30. And I will go one step further to state that as far as finance goes, as far as your own performance in this particular segment goes regarding your own investment, there is no better learning than your own experience. My suggestion is that if you have a great time in the market, because you came in at the right time, suppose you had invested 8 months ago, you would be up by 80%. And if you had invested 3 years ago, you are down 20%. Negative returns even today for quite a few of us. The point is, if you had learned to take advantage of the fall in the market, or you were late lucky, if you came in 7 months ago and made good money, market mein paisa acha banta hai. Those people get tempted to start leveraging their positions and start making mistakes, which may prove to be very, very expensive. So never leverage your position. Understand one thing, returns are never consistent in the equity markets. My experience is in 20 years, you don't have more than 3.5 years of a market which gives you fantastic returns. 12 to 13 years, the market doesn't do anything, and 3 to 4 years, it makes you you are on your knees in front of the market asking for apology for all the wrong things you've done. Your question, very simple. I would say that a beginner should start with index funds or should possibly go in for balanced funds. If he is planning to possibly put in money himself, he should have a proper diversification even in equity. There are the dividend-paying companies, there are the frontline companies, and a small portion of your money could be in stocks where the risk is slightly higher. Your returns also could be that much higher. If you feel you cannot do too much of these things, go in to a simple websites which are available, where you see the performance of mutual funds, see the best performing funds consistently, preferably over a period of more than 3 years, and learn to put in your money. Okay? And whenever you have spare time, allow me to state one thing. This is one of the most interesting things coming your way. Don't think it is weak and limited for you just because you have not learned finance or accounts in your life. If I could learn it, I'm sure you can learn it better.
Gaurav, I'll just butt in, right now the DIs are selling in India. FIs are buying for the last 2 months. Who's actually most private investors, all those with mutual funds are removing money. Mutual funds haven't given great. He will not tell you, but I can just tell you as an outside person. And everybody has learned to put money on their own. So more than that, trust your own self. These guys are making money on your money and they will be cutting 1%, 2% out of that. So if you have these 5, 7 companies and you put SIP into that instead of the mutual fund, I promise you, they will give you a return of 10 to 15%. You will make more than 30%.
But I'm sure there are people who are professionals. I would just wish to agree and disagree with you. Yes, there are blue chip companies which all of us know. You can buy a Reliance or you can buy a ITC or a Lever or Colgate, whatever it is. But the amount of return that you can get, so it all depends on the stakes at which you are playing. So there are mutual funds which outperform the nominal stock market index. So that is it. Like, for example, I would say that a lot of us thought that in the pandemic, gold is the thing to park your money. And unfortunately, gold having touched $2,100 per ounce is down to 1,800. Even though similar to this, so you never know. See, you have to broad base your investment. A Bitcoin is going to 40,000. So you really don't know. Let the experts do the thing for you. You have to trust an expert with a pedigree. Again, I come to the fact that you have a pedigree, that these are the mutual funds, people who are managers for mutual funds and how much returns they have given, because there are nuances. You don't know when to buy and when to sell. You can say, fine, that, okay, I'm reinvesting as an SIP in a particular fund, but that return or a particular stock, if that is giving you a 10% return, for example, ITC is one of the names of the companies that has been said. But majority of the people say that the management of ITC is such that it will never give you stupendous returns. There are a lot of articles over the recent past which have said ITC is a company, but it will give you a steady return of X percentage. It's not going to be something that's going to be transformational. Though they have transformed themselves from a cigarette company to a hotel company to a FMCG company, but at the end of the day, how much is the percentage of return that you have? So I think leave it to the experts. Even in our ophthalmic practice, we should leave it to the experts because we try to do everything ourselves. And I tell you that there is so much of difference. I'll just give you an example. I had a regular chartered accountant. When we got the investment, they said it has to be the big four or big five or six. So we got GT as something. The same things that were sitting with my chartered accountant, the GT people, they came and they said that, okay, these are the wrong things that you're doing. This is what it has to be. It has to be. So there is a value in a mind. There is a value between, as you said, an Himanshu Mehta operating and a Mahipal Sachdev operating. You are much higher valued than what I am today. So therefore, you should go to an investor or a person who has the right skill sets to do that. So there are professionals in the world who have to protect, because most of these guys who manage funds get a variable component on how well the fund does. So that is very, very important. They will not hurt their own self to get a poor return. It is their job to get you better. So, but the only thing is that you have to diversify your portfolio. जैसे ईरानी साहब ने बोला, मतलब you have to put some in equities, some in debt, convertible structures, some in gold, some in maybe Bitcoin or whatever. So it depends on how you put yourself as a high risk person who is willing to take high risk, low risk, medium risk. So accordingly, you have the various instruments which are.
Also, I would like to wish to state one more thing, Doctor, that I appreciate whatever has been mentioned right now, especially regarding ITC, which if I look at it minutely, I will say that the problem with ITC is that they take investors for granted and they go and diversify in different sectors. Without making them into separate companies. And I don't think you have a right to lose money in 5 of your 7 of your businesses while earning in only 2 of your businesses. And that is why it is not getting a good discounting. But coming back to this 5 stocks which you asked, Doctor, I think it all depends. And I'm right now again stating that thanks to my regular conversations over the last few days and possibly going on asking the same question again and again to Dr. Pooja Mehta, I am just stressing on companies which are easy to understand while stating that the temptation will be very high to make money elsewhere. Therefore, I use the word discipline. Now, let's take a name like an Hindustan Lever, or let's take a name like an MRF, or let's take a name like an Infosys or a Tata Consultancy Services or a Tata Consumer. Now, why should I not invest in a company like, say, an Atul Limited or a Paushak in the specialty chemical segment, which may give me relatively much better returns over the next 2-3 years? छोड़ो ना यार, इसको invest करना 15 साल. I will make maximum money in the next 2-3 years. But the point over here is, will these companies consistently deliver returns once their cycle is over? Difficult to state right now. It could just be 1 year, 2 years away. So I took the advantage of addressing young ophthalmologists and told them the simple way of doing it. So an HDFC Bank and a Tata Consultancy and an MRF or an Infosys or a Tata Consumer or a Colgate, while they may underperform the Atuls and the Paushaks in the specialty chemical segment, or an Alembic Pharma or a Dr. Reddy's, they're wonderful names. So if you invest it over the next 10, 15, 20 years, the compounding effect, which Dr. You also stressed on, will work tremendously and will fetch them good returns. But allow me to state somewhere, the discipline element will take over. You will feel, यार अभी यार रख के क्या करता हूँ हिंदुस्तान लीवर, ये साला 5-7% return देता है. उससे अच्छा let me go and buy into something else which may give me faster returns. And that discipline once broken, I promise you, it's very difficult to come back on track. So somewhere, if you are investing 100 rupees in equity, learn to put in 20, 30, 40 rupees into such type of stocks. Do it every month as SIPs and look at growth elsewhere. But that growth, allow me to say, you will need to be a little bit fleet-footed in a country called India, where the opportunities keep on coming today, but 4 years, 5 years later, they falter. In India, I have not seen any company dying. They survive. They survive. Nobody dies. But as far as the growth rate goes, the growth rate is never consistent for 97 to 98% of the companies listed over a longer period of time. So it's only the balance 1, 2, 3% of the companies you can really think of investing for the next 10, 15, 20 years without looking back. But I promise you, 9 out of 10 people, including those who are on the webinar right now, will somewhere falter and get tempted to part company with, say, an MRF or an ITC or a Larsen and Toubro Lever. It's a boring stock, say, yaar. Let me go and buy into companies which will give me returns faster. And once you do that, and actually you earn returns, either you will somewhere falter, but one thing is certain, you will never come back to these companies which are so supposed boring stocks. But over the next 20, 25 years, when they are on the brink of retirement and they are passing on the shares to the next generation, I promise you the next generation will really thank them from the bottom of their heart. Okay, Dad, you were smart enough to buy such wonderful stocks for us. Thank you very much. That is the way.
I think the namesake of H. Mehta in the scam, what it says, ishq hai to risk hai and risk hai to ishq hai.
Rani, I have a quick question because you spoke so well about these stocks and investing in the stocks. When is the time to sell? Sometimes, like I was getting restless. I had invested in stocks over the last 3-4 years. And, this time when the stock market went down and then it came up again in November. And, my friends were telling me, you're a fool that, you're not ready to sell anything. And, what is the point of investing if you don't want to sell anything? You should cut profit and you should take out. And I had good stocks, like over about 20, 25 companies, invested into different good, well-performing companies like you named. And the temptation to sell, because they were half of them telling me that you should sell out something and make a profit and get ready for the next time the market goes down, and some were telling me that don't sell, these are long term, and I didn't need the money, it was just that. So what would be the advice? Is there a good right time to sell?
I think you are suffering from the same illness which most of the good investors suffer, and that is the illness called getting emotionally attached. Point number 2 is trying to time the market. Allow me to state it is very, very difficult. Okay, I'm asking all of you all over here right now a simple question. How many of all actually thought of investing in the markets in the month of April and May when COVID had struck us and we never knew what's in store for us? Most of the good investors actually thought of taking out money from the market. But the new breed of investors who use the app on the phone, घर बैठे बैठे मारा और 50% 60% मिला, their money is still in the market and helps the market to grow. And we, like late Latif, came and built additional money at a later stage. So my simple one-line answer to you is, if you feel that you are monitoring the market a little bit closely, at higher levels, learn to sell, be patient. Don't regret if things go up further. But when things come down and people around you will talk very negative, you will realize the thing which you sold today available at a level lower than the level at which you sell. And at that point of time, you buy. For example, you are selling a thing at 900 rupees, booking a profit. It may go to 1000. It may go to 1020. You will regret for some time. On fine day when it's available below 900, go ahead and buy. And allow me to say, at that time, you will not have the guts to buy. Because everybody around you will only talk negative, or girega, market or girega. That is the way it is all. As I said earlier in my beginning of my presentation, it's a complete psychology game. So when everybody around you talks negative, learn to put in some money in the market, be patient, and things will turn out very well for you, and you will outperform most other funds.
Is it a bad idea to set a limit for yourself that, okay, like they say stop loss or this thing? So if I say that, okay, if I make 50% profit in the stock that I have bought at any particular time, I will disinvest 50% of it. So basically, if you kind of recover your investment and just keep the profit going, is that a bad kind of or is that anyway? It can't be absolutely good or bad, but I think keep profits at particular levels so that your investment comes out and you retain the profits that are there only into that stock. That would also be a strategy, right?
Brilliant question. I think if you are looking at companies which are full of promise but which have yet to deliver return, I think a stop loss in place would not be a bad idea. But if you are looking at companies which are solid companies, your comfort level is very high. And if you take out some capital from that, some capital means additional profit which you made to make your share free, there is no better option than what you are stating. But use that money again to try and identify some other stock which may possibly grow. That is what you should be doing. Because according to me, again, I'm repeating, I'm biased. It's my own experience I'm stating. And I don't think, at least in India, there is, you mentioned Bitcoin and all. Now, I don't think too many people over here, at least in this young ophthalmologist, will understand as to what is going to happen to their money. I don't think anybody amongst us can predict what is going to happen to that. Debt right now, unfortunately, is a bad proposition because of inflation rate, because of tax on that. I think gold is a decent investment. Again, from the security angle, I think 5% of your money is in gold is a decent option. Equity should be, I would use the word again, it should be 60, 50, 70% of your portfolio. Many may like to differ with me, but that is the way I am. The point is, you are going to endure a lot of volatility. You are going to get tempted to buy more at higher levels, and you are very smart enough to state that I will take some money out and make my investment free. I think that would be possibly the best thing to happen to anybody who would be doing that. But the temptation is too high at lower levels is the sad part over here. And when things come down, kitna bhi tum apne aap ko himmat wala bolo, ek baar aadmi dar jata hai. Like what happened in the month.
There was a lovely example given by. Sorry, Mohan.
I just want to add one point. I want to compliment Mehraboon sir for a wonderful presentation. Really, very difficult to speak without slides, and he did so very well. Just as you rightly said, sir, I feel that the stock market is like the horse race gambling. Typical to that. It's like a whirlpool. It will just pull you inside, and but you should know your limitations. You should know your limitations. When to stop. When to invest. I think that is what my personal experience is about this. Otherwise, it's like a whirlpool. You can get into it. Everything can become a little messy.
It's very unfortunate that you are stating it that way. I heard your presentation. It was fantastic. But I would say that what you are stating is right in its own way. Like I'm holding a glass in a social function. Does it make me a bozard? Does it make me a drunkard? If I have 4 packs, I behave in a bad way, I come home and hit my wife. The same class has affected me in a negative way. Same applies to the stock market. The stock market, I mentioned earlier, there are two dirty things. If you can keep it in check, there is no better option than equity. Number one is getting carried away. And number two is leveraging your position. I'm sure, in fact, we have seen it right for the last 30, 40 years. Hindi movies showing that people commit suicide and all. It's all humbug. The point is, he was riding his luck too much. He never knew, he had never had any control on the greed factor. Neither he had control on the fear factor. Now, whenever things are down, we all are scared. We don't feel like putting in money. But when things are high, we need market. Our new high pe hai, we want to put in more and more money. Somewhere we have to understand one thing and be honest. It's not equities, which is a bad thing. It is we ourselves. It's our own mind. And let's be honest to accept our own mistakes in life. And if you accept your own mistakes in life, I promise you, the market gives you one more helping hand to stand up.
One, it's all about greed. This market is all about greed.
The
Basic human.
human mind is greedy. Please understand. You can't overcome. Greedy. You want to have more money. See, if you go for, say, I have done horse racing regularly. Even now, I'm doing gambling. So if you win one thing, then you want to put for the next one on a higher stake. Okay. It's like
What I appreciate. Yeah, this is brilliant. What I'm saying. These are all surgeons with solid hormones racing by type A personality. Lose some money, that will make you good. Don't worry. Keep betting a little bit. But to Gaurav, to your question, you know what I learned from somebody is selling off a little and making those shares free. He said it very subtly, Mehraboon. So 20% of your portfolio don't sell, but when you're making profit in your mind, you know 20% paisa banaya, 30% banaya out. So your stock from 100 went to 150, sell off. It may go to 500 also, then don't feel bad.
Yeah.
But you have some free shares, maybe out of 100, you made 5 free shares. Keep those, don't sell. This is something which I cannot implement, not done, but I've learned very hard way. That's the way. Those free shares, don't look at them. They are the ones which will give you humongous return in 20 years.
Dr. Gaurav and Dr. Mohan also mentioned one thing. I think they would be superb in their own profession, but somewhere, especially Dr. Rajan, I think the question which he's stating makes me say to him, he would be making a simple mistake which most investors make, and that is not allowing the profits to rise, but allowing the losses. You buy 5 stocks at 100 rupees each. 4 of them go up, 1 comes down. Next day I meet you, I promise you the only stock in your portfolio is the stock which came. I've seen people not putting in more and more money in an Infosys or an MRF, but they go on putting more money in a Punj Lloyd or a Suzlon, which keeps on coming one way down, with the hope that I will average it one day and make my returns. The point is you have to appreciate that the bhaav jo dikhta hai wo Bhagwan. As the price is going up, it is because there is a real rational reason behind it. Sometimes, yes, the market gets stretched on the higher side, market gets stretched on the lower side, and it is for us to possibly take advantage of it. And ultimately, it works with experience. So I promise you that if you look back, and we all make mistakes, even I made mistakes. So if we look at things that, okay, when things go up, I have sold off my share in a hurry. 5 years later, the share is 5 times more. It is bound to happen. Like Mr. Gaurav was also asking this question that when is the time to book profits? The point is, if you believe this is a compounder, I promise you are going to feel very stupid if you sell off early. Imagine a person who had applied for Infosys at 20 rupees 23 years ago and sold off his share at 200 rupees. How stupid he would be feeling today. And this inevitably happens. People go on riding their losses, but go on booking their profits. They think very smart, कि हमने अच्छा किया, profit book कर दिया, दूसरा script लिया, but at the end of it all, you have to understand that even in Warren Buffett's portfolio or Rakesh Jhunjhunwala's portfolio, any name you want to take, out of every 30 companies, there are only 3 companies which deliver fantastic returns to them, but they know how to ride on them, and therefore they make their money on that. But we all, normal people in the market, we somewhere believe in riding our losses. Arey share niche aa gaya, kabhi na kabhi badhega. It's the ego element which takes over. I cannot go wrong. Accept the mistake, exit your positions wherever they are not working well for you, and learn to build your positions further and further in companies which are consistently delivering returns for you. And that honestly is a secret which a lot of us understand theoretically, but fail to implement it.
That has been a very, very stimulating session. I'd now just wrap up and request Dr. Gaurav to please thank the speakers, and then we can have a wrap.
I think Rohan and Pooja, you've done a fantastic job. It's been such a great learning. And Tushya, thank you so much for the youngsters to have anchored this all through, and amazing talks. I mean, in each domain, Dr. Mohan, starting with Dr. Mohan, how he spoke about his experiences of running a solo practice, which has grown tremendously. Then to Dr. Kuresh, who spoke about his experiences with the group practice, and then how Dr. Mahipal sir gave us literally a lesson in how to be a very, very successful entrepreneur, and how to reach that top level of your profession. And then going on to Mehraboon sir, who spoke so simply and yet with so much information and so much knowledge that it's if somebody understood it, I think they would really be able to imbibe it. And then, of course, thanks to Himanshu for kind of giving the youngsters this direction to with on the platform of IRSI to go ahead with such a offbeat yet very, very important topic, which is so meaningful, much more than the academic sessions sometimes that we do. So I would like to thank all of you for doing this amazing effort, and also Microvision for always helping out with these programs. So passing on the baton to the other IRSI office bearers, Dr. Himanshu and Dr. Mahipal sir.
Thank you everybody, all participants. Mehraboon, thank you for sparing your time on a Sunday morning. You have very little time during the week, I understand. Mohan, thanks so much for your input, and genuine. Everybody was very genuine what they said. And Mahipal, as usual, right from the heart, straight arrow, beats everybody. But the stark reality is why he is where he is because he's honest. He knows his job so well. He was talking like an HBS business investor, talking about all these funds and all. We have had no formal education in that anywhere. This is all picked up. You don't need anything anywhere. You don't need to go to college. What he said, go through those slides again and again. You'll understand. There's enough material on the internet. And become an entrepreneur. You have everything in you. You have the right hormone to get it done. Don't get worried. Take him as an example, lead example, and that can be done. Over to you, Mahipal.
Thank you very much, Himanshu, and thank you, the youngsters, Pooja, Rohan, and Tushya, and obviously Gaurav. I think it will be a good idea that the youngsters, you could even arrange something like a roundtable, limited discussion on a particular thing, because I would love to spend maybe 10 hours with Mr. Irani and look forward to things. And the learnings are so immense that is there. I think the youngsters should try to get out of the learnings of individuals and where they faltered and where they made it big, and to kind of do better than that. I think that is something very, very important. But the thirst to kind of learn, to read, to listen to people, I think listening is also something very, very important that comes as I would say, it is as important for you to do the surgery. I think it is more important for you to see a master surgeon operating as to what are the finer nuances, etc., that they have done. But I think great job, and I think it's our duty to stimulate the youngsters to make them do better, because India has a lot of way to cover as compared to global things. I think we should look at progress, and we should look at doing better than what our gens or our ancestors did. So that's about it. Great congratulations for everybody, and lot of the associated with any of these things. We can be of help to anybody. It's our pleasure to share knowledge, because the more you share, the more you get.
Thank you so much, sir. With me